Hello, everyone, and welcome to our YouTube channel. Today, we're excited to share the inspiring story of George, a 22-year-old embarking on a journey to master English vocabulary and grammar. Let's explore how George started his adventure in language classes. George's interest in English began during his high school years. Recognizing the global importance of English proficiency, he decided to join language classes at a local institute. At first, George found English grammar challenging. Learning about sentence structure, verb tenses, and grammar rules required patience and practice. Despite the initial difficulties, George was determined to understand the fundamentals. Vocabulary was another area George focused on. He used methods like flashcards and word lists to learn new words every day. Gradually, he became more comfortable using these words in sentences and conversations. Like many learners, George faced occasional frustrations. Complex grammar rules and unfamiliar expressions sometimes made him doubt his progress. However, he persisted, motivated by his goal to communicate fluently. Throughout his journey, George learned not only grammar and vocabulary but also cultural aspects of the English language. Understanding cultural context helped him interpret idioms and expressions more accurately. Join us in the next part as George shares tips on effective grammar and vocabulary learning strategies. Stay tuned for more insights into his journey. Thank you for watching, and remember, every step in learning a language brings you closer to fluency. In this part, George will guide us through the essentials of English grammar, focusing on verb tenses and sentence structure. Let's explore. 1. Verb tenses. Present tense. George learned that the present tense is used to describe actions happening now or regularly. For example, I study English every day. Past tense. George discovered that the past tense is used to talk about completed actions in the past. For instance, yesterday, I watched a movie. Future tense. George practiced using the future tense to discuss actions that will happen later. For example, next week, I will travel to London. 2. Sentence structure. George learned about basic sentence structure in English, which typically follows a subject-verb-object order. For example, she, subject, likes, verb, reading, object. He also understood how to form questions and negatives using auxiliary verbs. For instance, do you like coffee? Or, I don't speak French. 3. Grammar rules. George grasped essential grammar rules such as using articles, a, and, the, correctly and understanding the difference between countable and uncountable nouns. He also learned about adjectives, adverbs, and how they modify nouns and verbs to provide more details and clarity in communication. 4. Common mistakes and corrections. Throughout his journey, George encountered common mistakes learners make, such as confusing similar-sounding words, e.g., there/there/there, or using incorrect verb forms, e.g., I goed, instead of I went. By actively correcting these mistakes, George improved his accuracy and fluency in English. 5. Tips for practicing grammar. George suggests practicing grammar through exercises and quizzes. Online resources and grammar books with exercises helped him reinforce his understanding of different grammar concepts. Engaging in conversations and writing regularly also provided practical application of grammar rules in real-life situations. By mastering these fundamental aspects of English grammar and tenses, George significantly enhanced his language skills and confidence in communicating effectively. George will delve into more advanced language concepts that have enriched his English learning journey. Let's explore together. 1. Complex sentence structures. George mastered complex sentence structures, such as, "Although it was raining, they decided to go for a walk. She studied hard because she wanted to pass the exam." The book that he recommended is very interesting. 2. Idioms and phrasal verbs. George learned idiomatic expressions and phrasal verbs. Idioms: a piece of cake, something very easy, bite the bullet, to face a difficult situation bravely. Phrasal verbs: turn down, to refuse, bring up, to raise a topic. 3. Formal versus informal language. George understood the difference between formal and informal language. Formal: could you please provide me with more information? Informal: can you tell me more about it? 4. Figurative language. George became proficient in using metaphors and similes. Metaphor: her smile was a ray of sunshine. Simile: he runs as fast as a cheetah. 5. Cultural context and language use. George grasped cultural nuances in language. Understanding humor: that joke went over my head. Social norms: it's polite to say, thank you, after receiving a compliment. 6. Advanced vocabulary expansion. George expanded his vocabulary with context-specific words. Synonyms: big, synonym, large, enormous. Antonyms: hot, antonym, cold, cool. 7. Effective communication strategies. George applied effective communication strategies in conversations. Active listening: I hear what you're saying. Paraphrasing: so, what you're saying is? By embracing these advanced language concepts and using examples like these, George enhanced his English proficiency and appreciation for the intricacies of the language. In this segment, George will share practical strategies and examples for overcoming common challenges in language learning. Let's explore together. 1. Improving pronunciation. George faced difficulties with English pronunciation, especially with words containing silent letters or unfamiliar sounds. For instance, pronouncing "kernel/krnl/ correctly was challenging due to its unexpected pronunciation. To overcome this, George practiced phonetic pronunciation guides and listened attentively to native speakers. He recorded himself speaking and compared it with audio samples to refine his pronunciation. 2. Mastering complex grammar. Complex grammar structures like conditional sentences and the subjunctive mood pose challenges for George. For example, understanding when to use "if I had known" in a hypothetical situation was initially confusing. To tackle this, George broke down grammar rules into manageable parts and practiced with examples. He created scenarios using conditional sentences in conversations to reinforce his understanding. 3. Enhancing listening skills. Developing strong listening comprehension was crucial for George, especially understanding native speakers at natural speed. He struggled with catching every word in fast-paced conversations. George improved by regularly listening to podcasts and watching movies with subtitles. He focused on identifying key words and contextual clues to grasp the overall meaning of conversations. 4. Building confidence in speaking. George initially felt hesitant to speak English aloud, fearing mistakes. For example, he often stumbled over words or used incorrect grammar. To build confidence, George joined language exchange programs and participated in conversation groups where he practiced speaking in a supportive environment. He gradually gained fluency and overcame his fear of making mistakes. 5. Adapting to cultural differences. Adjusting to cultural nuances in language use and social interactions posed challenges for George. For instance, understanding different levels of formality in greetings and conversations. George immersed himself in English-speaking environments, observed local customs, and engaged in cultural activities. By interacting with native speakers, he learned the appropriate language and behaviors for different social settings. 6. Effective time management. Balancing language learning with other commitments required careful planning for George. For example, finding time to study English while managing work and personal responsibilities. George adopted time management techniques such as setting specific study goals, using language learning apps during commutes, and dedicating focused study sessions each day. This helped him stay consistent and make steady progress in his language skills. 7. Sustaining motivation. Maintaining motivation throughout his language learning journey was key for George's success. He encountered moments of frustration and self-doubt, especially during challenging grammar lessons or when progress seemed slow. George stayed motivated by celebrating small achievements, setting milestones for improvement, and connecting with other language learners online. He visualized his language goals and reminded himself of the benefits of becoming fluent in English. We'll explore essential concepts in English language structure, focusing on word formation and adjective usage. Let's delve into these topics. 1. Word formation. Affixes. George learned that affixes are additions to the base form of a word that alter its meaning or grammatical function. For example, adding meant to enjoy forms enjoyment. Prefixes. These are affixes added at the beginning of a word. For instance, undash in happy changes the meaning to unhappy. Suffixes. These are affixes added at the end of a word. For example, able in comfort forms comfortable. 2. Types of adjectives. Single-word adjectives. These are adjectives that consist of a single word, such as happy, big, beautiful. Compound adjectives. These are adjectives formed by combining two or more words with a hyphen, such as well-known, high-speed, blue-eyed. Phrasal adjectives. These are adjectives formed by combining a phrase, often with a hyphen, such as state-of-the-art, easy-to-use, one time. 3. Comparison of adjectives. Positive. This form is used to describe one thing or person, without comparing it to others. For example, she is tall. Comparative. This form is used to compare two things or people. It often ends in or uses more before the adjective. For example, she is taller than her brother, or she is more intelligent than him. Superlative. This form is used to compare one thing or person with a group of two or more things or people. It often ends in est or uses most before the adjective. For example, she is the tallest in her class, or she is the most intelligent student. Understanding these structures and forms helps learners like George effectively describe people, places, and things in various contexts. We'll explore an important aspect of English grammar, prepositions and their usage. Let's dive into this topic. 1. Understanding prepositions. Prepositions are words that show the relationship between a noun, or pronoun, and other words in a sentence. They indicate location, time, direction, manner, or cause. Examples of common prepositions include in, on, at, by, for, with, about, before, after, during, since, etc. 2. Usage of prepositions. Location. Prepositions indicate where something is located. For example, the book is on the table. Time. Prepositions show when something happens. For instance, I will meet you at 3 p.m. Direction. Prepositions describe the direction of movement. For example, she walked towards the park. Manner. Prepositions describe how something is done. For instance, he spoke with confidence. Cause. Prepositions explain why something happens. For example, she cried because of the sad news. 3. Common errors with prepositions. Incorrect use of prepositions can lead to confusion or misunderstandings. For example, confusing in and on in expressions like in the weekend instead of on the weekend. Learning the correct preposition to use in different contexts improves clarity and accuracy in communication. 4. Tips for learning prepositions. Practice using prepositions in sentences to understand their proper usage. Pay attention to collocations, words that often go together with specific prepositions, such as interested in, depend on, arrive at, etc. Read and listen to English materials to observe how prepositions are used naturally in context. Understanding prepositions enhances language fluency and enables precise communication in both spoken and written English. We'll explore an essential aspect of English grammar, phrasal verbs. Let's delve into this dynamic and versatile topic. 1. Understanding phrasal verbs. Phrasal verbs are combinations of verbs and particles, prepositions or adverbs, that create idiomatic expressions with meanings different from their individual parts. Example, she put off studying until the last minute. 2. Types of phrasal verbs. Intransitive phrasal verbs, these do not take a direct object. Example, the plane took off at noon. Transitive phrasal verbs, these take a direct object. Example, please turn off the lights before leaving. Separable phrasal verbs, the object can come between the verb and the particle or follow the particle. Example, he turned on the TV or he turned the TV on. Inseparable phrasal verbs, the object must come after the particle. Example, she looks after her younger siblings. 3. Usage of phrasal verbs. Phrasal verbs are commonly used in both informal and formal English. They add depth and nuance to language and are frequently used in everyday conversation. Example, he came across an old friend at the party. 4. Common errors with phrasal verbs. Misunderstanding the meaning of phrasal verbs or using them incorrectly can lead to confusion. Example, incorrect use, she took off the meeting. Correct, she put off the meeting. 5. Tips for learning phrasal verbs. Practice using phrasal verbs in context through reading, listening, and speaking exercises. Example, I ran into my neighbor at the store yesterday. Understanding and mastering phrasal verbs enriches language proficiency and enables more natural and expressive communication in English. 1. Achievements in language proficiency. George has achieved proficiency in using complex sentence structures, mastering idiomatic expressions, and understanding subtle nuances in English grammar. Example, through consistent practice, I've improved my ability to construct complex sentences and use idiomatic expressions naturally. 2. Personal growth and cultural awareness. George's journey has not only enhanced his language skills but also broadened his cultural awareness and understanding of diverse language contexts. Example: learning English has opened my mind to different cultures and ways of communication, making me more adaptable and empathetic. 3. Overcoming challenges and persistence. George overcame challenges such as pronunciation difficulties, grammar complexities, and cultural adaptation hurdles through persistence and determination. Example: despite initial challenges, I persevered in improving my pronunciation and mastering complex grammar rules, which boosted my confidence. 4. Advice for language learners. George encourages fellow language learners to embrace challenges, stay motivated, and believe in their ability to achieve fluency. Example: my advice is to set clear goals, practice consistently, and immerse yourself in the language. Remember, you have the potential to become fluent. Final thoughts and valuable recommendation. As we conclude this journey, George and our team encourage you to embark on your own language learning adventure with passion and determination. Remember, you are capable. Believe in your ability to learn and grow. Every step you take brings you closer to fluency. Consistency is key. Practice regularly and expose yourself to diverse language materials to reinforce your skills. Celebrate progress. Celebrate each milestone, no matter how small, as it signifies your journey towards mastering the language. Thank you for joining us on this insightful journey into language learning. We hope George's experiences have inspired and empowered you to pursue your language goals with confidence. Remember, you are on the path to becoming the best version of yourself through language proficiency.